Tony Shepherd. We are going to see a support package. We see and hear how well the economy is doing, but in the real world, are people feeling it?
Not really, Laura. I think this lockdown in New South Wales has really sort of shaken people up quite a lot. Maybe we're getting complacent. Maybe we thought it was all over, and so it's come as a bit of a shock, and it has set people back, and that it obviously is having a dramatic impact on business, and that is having an impact again on confidence.
Yeah, was it a kind of untenable, I guess, for the federal government not to come to the party here? I mean, the New South Wales economy is almost too big to fail, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it is. It's a third of Australia's economy, and New South Wales being locked down has an enormous impact because it means that the demand for New South Wales is low, and the other states suffer as a consequence. Border closures, impact on business and what have you. I'm confident the feds will come to the party on this, though. Josh Frydenberg is a great treasurer. He's a hard-working and empathetic treasurer. Empathetic treasurer is probably an oxymoron, but he is there. And I'm confident that they'll come to the party and help.
Yep, we're going to see that today. They certainly resisted reinstating a JobKeeper, but it will be a payment to business and it will help those employees because you've got to tie jobs to this payment as well. But what do business actually need at the moment? They've been burned.
I think. Sorry, go on. Yes, I think that they do need that. I think the economy runs on people and business. And if we can keep people employed during this lockdown period without being laid off, then business will be in better shape to get going again when the lockdown stops in the hopefully not too distant future, but who knows, it could be 4 to 6 weeks. So I think that sort of support payment system, which encourages businesses to retain people and keeps the people employed, is the ideal solution because you want to hit the ground running when you come out of this.
What's the long-term ramifications of this in and out of lockdown yo-yo, the 18 months of COVID now? I mean, it seems a long time since you did the commission audit and, it seems like reform is a long way away as well. What does this do to long-term business confidence, wages growth, investment?
Look, we went into the pandemic not in the best economic shape. Okay, our unemployment was rising, business investment was stagnant, real wages were stagnant, productivity performance was appalling, economic reform had slowed down. In fact, it had been reversed in the case of industrial relations as we went back to, these hundreds of awards and all run by some commissar. So we weren't in the best of shape when we went into the pandemic, and we're not going to come out of it any better. And so that will be a challenge for us to get going again when this slows down, when this COVID thing slows down. Now, I think basically though, Laura, we're going to have to learn to live with this. We'll never get rid of it, in my view. It doesn't seem to be that sort of it seems to be one of those viruses which will be with the world for a long, long time. And as we are an international trading country, we'll always have some exposure. So we've really got to learn to live with this and just get on with life and work around it. And to do that, we need vaccination. And, I think the top priority for all governments in Australia at the moment is to beg, borrow and steal as much vaccine as you can and then roll it out as quickly as possible. If we get to 60, 70, 80% vaccination, these spot fires of outbreaks will become less frequent and less damaging.
Yep, it all comes down to the vaccine. You're absolutely right, and that's what the experts say as well. So you're a businessman. Have you watched on in frustration the reports we're getting about vaccine supply, and not just reports, whether they be true or not? The fact is that we're last in the OECD when it comes to the rollout.
I know. I think that's disappointing. Having done so well in everything else, to be last in the OECD on rollout is not a badge of honour by any stretch of the imagination. But Australians are good in a crisis, and I trust that the federal government and state governments are really working hard together to get the supply that we need and to ensure that the rollout is efficient and as speedy as possible. But I had some friends that went out to Homebush Bay the other day, and they're in their 60s, and they walked in and got the AstraZeneca vaccination, within 5 minutes of arrival. So it's there. It's just a question of getting people there. And I'm having my second shot today. So,
good.
So good. Yeah.
Who would have thought? Tony Shepherd, poster boy for the vaccine. It's good to hear.
Yeah, AstraZeneca too. And I got zero reaction from the first shot. So hopefully the second one is exactly the same.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know. Now, just before I let you go, you have worked in the public service, not in the health department, it should be said. But you know how these negotiations work and how cumbersome they can be when it comes to whatever you're negotiating at a public service level. But do you think Scott Morrison perhaps should now get on the phone to the boss of Pfizer in the US, do what Benjamin Netanyahu did?
Yeah, well, look, we can take lessons out of the US. I mean, they initially managed the outbreak very poorly, and a lot of people died as a consequence of it. But in terms of getting the vaccination program going, they have been the gold standard. I mean, at one stage they were doing 4.5 million people a week. They do the whole population of Australia in 5 days. So, I think there are some lessons to be learned there. I noticed that he's brought in a Lieutenant General, a very experienced logistics person to run the program, and that's probably a good idea because we are at war. We are fundamentally at war against this virus. So hopefully that particular person will be able to lead the charge on this one and really get things moving.
Yeah,
and we have to work cooperatively with the states. I mean, the states have been pretty good at this.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, you can argue about testing and tracing, but, they've been pretty effective. Certainly here in New South Wales, they've been very effective.
Yeah, certainly, but we find ourselves here. Just one more question again before I let you go. What do you think the view of the rest of the world is about Australia as a place, and I guess the confidence that international companies and businesses might have in investing here? Do we risk becoming a bit of a backwater if we don't step up the vaccination?
Well, look, we risk that. I mean, we are the poster child in terms of the OECD, in terms of safety and the low number of infections and the very low number of deaths relatively to other countries. So we are seen as a safe haven and a very careful, well-run haven. So I think we're there. But if we can get that vaccination problem solved, then we would be a great destination for foreign capital and for foreign investors. There's no doubt about that.